We're going to remove all 8 bolts in the front end here. Goes straight across, 10mm socket. And our last 8th tab is broken. Drain the oil before removing the oil pan. 14mm wrench. Make sure you have a good catch basin. Should be about 4.5 quarts. Make sure it's big enough. And then remove your oil filter. Now you can remove the filter completely once most of it drains out, and just put it right in the catch basin. Now you can reinstall the drain plug, so you can move the catch pan while you're taking the pan down. It doesn't have to be tight, you just want it to stop dripping. And I'm going to put like a rag, clean the oil filter housing, so just to keep it cleaner. So I'm going to start with the first nut. The rest are bolts. There's only 2 nuts located on this whole pan. 10mm socket. Break it free. And then take the rest of the bolts down. So on the back side here, there is one that's kind of hard to get to, so you can either use a straight wrench or a swivel socket. Now I'm just going to loosen this one up. I'm not going to take it all the way out because I'm going to use that once I pry it with a screwdriver and pop it down. That way the pan doesn't fall completely down on me. So here's the second one that will need a swivel, or if you can break it free with a wrench. Toyota's nice enough, they actually need to make a cutout on the subframe. And then the last bolt. I'm not going to take this all the way down. Just going to loosen it up, because now I'm going to have to take a pry bar or hook without damaging the block and try to pry this pan down to get all the RTV adhesive to break free. You can also try to hit, because you're replacing the pan, you can bang it with a rubber mallet, just kind of vibrates it free a little bit. And then you can try to get it to a nice spot where, once again, try not to hit the block. You can hear it. There we go. So I'm going to take the remaining bolts out by hand. See if I can get this pan to come down. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, you don't need to remove that exhaust pipe. Just tilt it and it comes right out. So now we have the pan down, and all this has to be cleaned. All this old RTV has to come off. And these 2 studs are in the actual timing chain cover. So you can see the crack right here where the aluminum meets the block. So you know that that's a stud hole. And they have inverted Torx heads on them, so it's an E5. And I'm going to take the stud out for easy cleaning. And there's 2 of them. They're both E5, and they're both the last bolt hole on the timing chain cover. So I actually have a scraper, and then I'll clean this up with sandpaper after I get the heavy amount of it off. I don't like to use razor blades because of the aluminum block. If you're careful and you have a talent with it, then go for it. But if you nick the aluminum, it's not the best thing. So I like to use a sanding block because it keeps a nice flat surface, and I can get into those really hard to reach places and get it right down to the aluminum and make sure all of the RTV is gone. So I'm going to do this all the way around, make sure I have a nice clean finish on a flat surface. So now with a nice clean rag. I'm gonna take parts cleaner and I'm gonna soak my rag down, and then I'm gonna wipe my surface. I don't really like spraying it into the engine because you don't want it to dry any bearings out or sit in a crevice. But it does have to have a dry, clean surface in order for the RTV to set. You might want to wait about an hour or two, see if you can get the dripping to stop. So now I'm going to reinstall the two studs I took out. They're both, like I said, the last bolt on the timing chain cover into the block. You can see where it meets. And there is a spacer on there, so it bottoms right out. So now I'm going to put the RTV. I like to put it direct on the pan, and don't be shy with it. And I always go on the inside of the bolt cover. So give it one more quick wipe down. You want no oil. And then you can grab that pan and put it up as soon as you can. Try not to wait longer than 3-4 minutes after you spread that RTV on that pan. Okay, I'm going to put the exhaust side in first, then up, and line those two studs up. There we go. Put one bolt in right here. I'm just going to snug it up. Okay, and then I'm just going to start from oil filter inverted is the number 1 bolt, and then it goes over to the opposite side for 2, and then it goes around from there, 2, 3, 4, not in a crisscross pattern. This is the way the Toyota manufacturer diagram looks. So now that's 2. And I'm going to go this way. 3. All the way around to 15 is going to be number 1 again. And I'm just snugging them down, and then I will get my torque wrench and torque them to manufacturer's specification. So 80 inch-pounds is the manufacturer's specifications, and number 1 is right below the oil filter in that in cove. And then 2 is directly opposite side. And you're going to go clockwise around the pan. That was number 2. We go right back to 1 is numbered 15. And you're all set. So before I continue, my pan is installed, and I'm going to double check the new drain plug that comes with the oil pan. Manufacturer is 30 foot-pounds for torque. I want to make sure it's tight and it won't leak. This is a 15 on the new oil pan. It was a 14 on the factory. 30 foot-pounds. Perfect. So the oil on this is either 520 or 020. All depends on the climate that you live in. I like to prep the oil filter before I put her up there because I want the pump to get oil instantly instead of go through a dry filter. Put a little bit of the oil on the oil filter O-ring. Just confirm there's no grease or sand on that surface. And put her on up. All oil filters basically are the same. Once they bottom out, try to get a good quarter turn to it without using an oil filter wrench, only by hand. Now I'm going to remove the fill cap, oil cap, place that aside. I'm going to put my funnel in, and the oil capacity is 4.5 quarts. So I'm just going to start filling that up. Now I'm going to remove my funnel, make sure I put my cap back on. Start it up and check for leaks. Replace the splash shield. I'm going to put the front in first. So you want the lips to go up underneath that front bumper. And then put the screws in. To hold it steady in the front now, I've got one screw up there. I'm going to put one of the plastic push pins in the back here. So now that you've started the engine after the oil pan and you let the oil settle down again, wait about 15-20 minutes, shut the engine off, you can clear the dipstick, and then we're going to check our oil level. It's right there, top notch.